Welcome to Folktales Africa. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications because it will mean the whole world to me. Now, let's get right into the story. The boardroom was thick with tension. 12 executives in expensive suits sat around a mahogany table, their faces grim as they stared at the red numbers on the projection screen. The company was hemorrhaging money, 3 million naira lost in the last quarter alone. Gentlemen, CEO Marcus Adeleke said, his voice heavy with desperation, if we don't find a solution in the next 48 hours, Pinnacle Industries will file for bankruptcy. 30 years of building this empire and it's all about to crumble. At the back of the room, almost invisible in his faded blue uniform, stood Emeka, the janitor. He was emptying the wastebaskets, moving quietly as always, invisible to the powerful men who were about to lose everything. His weathered hands moved methodically, but his sharp mind was absorbing every word. The chief financial officer, Mr. Williams, slammed his fist on the table. The shipping costs are killing us. Every container from our factory to the ports cost us fortune. Our competitors are undercutting us because somehow their logistics are cheaper. But how? Marcus asked, running his hands through his grey hair. We've used the same routes for 20 years, the same trucking companies, the same. Sir, came a quiet voice from the back of the room. The entire boardroom turned. Emeka stood there, his cleaning cart beside him, looking directly at the CEO. The silence was deafening. Mr. Williams coughed. Did the janitor just interrupt us? But what Emeka said next would save them all from ruin. What he revealed would shock every person in that room and change his life forever. But this story started 3 months earlier. 3 months before that fateful boardroom meeting, Emeka Okafor was doing what he had done every morning for the past 8 years, arriving at Pinnacle Industries at 5 a.m., 2 hours before anyone else. He stepped off the Molue bus at the Mile 2 bus stop, his cleaning supplies packed in an old leather bag that had seen better days. The security guard, Ibrahim, waved him through the gate with a warm smile. Early as always, Emeka, Ibrahim called out in Yoruba. Time na money, my brother, Emeka replied with a grin, switching effortlessly to pidgin. How your family? Dem dey well, thanks for asking. This was Emeka's world. Simple, honest, built on genuine connections with people others considered beneath notice. He was 52 years old, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses that he had repaired multiple times with tape. His uniform was always clean but showed the wear of years of hard work. As he entered the towering glass building of Pinnacle Industries, Emeka moved with purpose. He knew every corner, every office, every hidden spot in the 40-story building. What most people didn't know was that Emeka had graduated with first-class honors in industrial engineering from the University of Lagos 25 years ago. Life, however, had other plans. When the economic recession hit Nigeria in the late 90s, fresh graduates couldn't find work. Companies closed. Dreams were deferred. Emeka took the janitor job temporarily just to feed his family. Temporary became permanent when his wife fell ill with kidney disease. The medical bills consumed everything. His engineering dreams were buried under the weight of survival. But Emeka never stopped learning. During his 8 years at Pinnacle, he had quietly observed everything. He understood the business better than most executives. He saw the inefficiencies, the waste, the problems that could be solved with simple solutions, but who would listen to a janitor? As he began his morning routine on the 35th floor, executive level, Emeka heard raised voices from the corner office. Through the slightly open door, he could see Marcus Adeleke, the CEO, on a phone call that was clearly going badly. What do you mean the shipment is delayed again? Marcus was shouting. This is the third time this month. Do you realize what this is costing us? Emeka paused in his cleaning, not to eavesdrop, but because the pain in the CEO's voice was unmistakable. This was a man watching his life's work crumble. Marcus ended the call and slumped in his chair. For a moment, the powerful CEO looked like a broken man. Emeka quietly continued his work, but his engineer's mind was already analyzing what he had heard. Later that morning, as the executives began arriving, the contrast between Emeka's world and theirs became stark. They stepped out of chauffeur-driven cars, spoke in loud, confident voices, and moved through the building as if they owned the air they breathed. The head of operations, Mr. Chibuike Williams, was particularly insufferable. A man in his 40s who had inherited his position through family connections, he treated the support staff like furniture. When Emeka was cleaning near the elevator, Williams pushed past him without acknowledgement, causing Emeka to drop his cleaning supplies. Watch where you are going, Williams snapped, not even turning around. Emeka quietly gathered his supplies, used to such treatment, but Sarah, the young receptionist, had seen the entire exchange. I'm sorry, Uncle Emeka, she whispered in Igbo. He has no respect. Emeka smiled gently. It's okay, Nwa. People reveal their character by how they treat those who can't do nothing for them. What Williams didn't know was that Emeka had just witnessed something that would become crucial later. In his hurry to be important, Williams had dropped a manila folder. Emeka picked it up, intending to return it, but the contents made him freeze. Shipping contracts, route schedules, cost breakdowns. As an engineer, Emeka's trained eye immediately spotted the inefficiencies. The company was using routes that were not just expensive but completely illogical. They were shipping containers from Lagos to Port Harcourt, then back to Lagos port for exports. It was like driving from Lagos to Ibadan via Abuja. But who would believe a janitor has such insights? The first major confrontation came during the monthly all-staff meeting in the company's main conference hall. Marcus had called the meeting to address rumors about the company's financial troubles. The hall was packed, executives in the front rows, middle management in the center, and support staff standing at the back. Emeka stood with the other cleaners, security guards, and drivers, invisible as always, but he listened intently as Marcus tried to reassure everyone. Despite challenges in the market, Marcus said, his voice steady but strange, Pinnacle Industries remain strong. We are exploring cost-cutting measures, but no one should worry about job security. But Emeka could see the fear in the CEO's eyes. He had been cleaning Marcus's office for months, had seen the stress lines deepen, the sleepless nights evidence in his appearance. After the meeting, as people filed out, Williams made a loud comment that froze the blood in Emeka's veins. Of course, when we do need to make cuts, Williams said to his deputy, loud enough for the support staff to hear, we know where to start. How many janitors does one building really need? The other cleaners looked terrified. These were men and women with families, children in school, elderly parents depending on them. Emeka felt anger rise in his chest, not just for himself but for his colleagues. That night, Emeka sat in his small bedroom apartment in Mushi, staring at a notebook where he had been sketching out logistic solutions. His wife, Grace, had been gone for 3 years now, lost to the kidney disease that had consumed their savings. The apartment was quiet except for the sound of generators humming outside and distant music from a neighbor's radio. On a small dining table, Emeka spread out papers he had been collecting, shipping schedules he had photocopied during his cleaning rounds, route maps he had drawn from memory, cost calculations he had worked out by hand. As an engineer, he couldn't help but see the solutions to Pinnacle's problems. The company was losing money on shipping because they were using a middleman logistics company that was inefficient and overpriced. Worse, the company was routing shipments in the most expensive way possible. A direct route from the factory to Lagos port would cut costs by 60%. But how could he, a janitor, present this to the board of directors? The next morning, Emeka made a decision that would change everything. He would try to speak to Marcus directly. He waited until late evening when most executives had gone home. Marcus was still in his office as Emeka knew he would be, wrestling with the company's problems. Emeka knocked gently on the door. Come in, Marcus called, not looking up from his papers. Good evening, sir, Emeka said quietly. Marcus looked up, surprised. Oh, Emeka, working late? Yes, sir. Sir, I was wondering, I have some thoughts about the shipping problems. Williams, who had been in the office discussing something with Marcus, laughed out loud. The janitor has thoughts about shipping. This is rich. Marcus looked uncomfortable. Emeka, I appreciate your concern, but shipping logistics is quite complex. Sir, I studied industrial engineering at University of Lagos, Emeka said quietly. I know it might seem strange, but I've been observing and I think there might be a simple solution. Enough! Williams exploded. This is ridiculous, Marcus. We are discussing million naira problems and you are entertaining fairy tales from the cleaning staff. Marcus looked torn between politeness and practicality. Emeka, perhaps this isn't the right time or place. Emeka nodded quietly. I understand, sir. I just thought if it could help. What could help? William said coldly, is if you focus on your actual job. Clean the offices, empty the bins, and leave the thinking to people who are qualified. As Emeka left the office, he heard Williams continue. I'm telling you, Marcus, this is exactly the kind of thing that happens when you are too soft with the help. Give them an inch and they think they can run the company. That night, Emeka lay awake staring at the ceiling. He had swallowed his pride, hoping to help, only to be humiliated, but something his late wife used to say echoed in his mind. Emeka, God places people in positions for a reason. Sometimes the help comes from where you least expect it. He made a decision. He would continue to observe, continue to document, and when the right moment came, if it ever came, he would be ready. Over the next month, the situation at Pinnacle Industries deteriorated rapidly. The financial bleeding continued, and Williams's treatment of the support staff became increasingly brutal. It was as if he was taking out his frustrations about the company's troubles on the people who couldn't fight back. The first incident happened on a particularly stressful Tuesday. A major client had cancelled a contract and the entire executive floor was in a crisis mode. Emeka was cleaning the conference room after an emergency meeting when William stormed in, talking loudly on his phone. No, 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 William shouted into his phone. I don't want excuses. I want solutions. In his anger, he knocked over a full cup of coffee, spilling it across important documents scattered on the table. Without thinking, Emeka moved quickly to help, using his clean cloth to try to save the papers. What are you doing? Williams exploded, ending his call abruptly. Don't touch those. Those are confidential company documents. I am sorry, sir, Emeka said quietly. I was just trying to help save the papers from the coffee. I don't need help from you. Williams snatched the documents, many already coffee stained and illegible. Do you realize what you have done? These were shipping contracts worth millions. The irony wasn't lost on Emeka. Those very contracts contained the routing errors he had identified, but now they were ruined. Sir, I can pay for reprinting. With what money? Williams laughed cruelly. Your janitor salary? Get out and next time, stay in your lane. The second incident was worse. It happened during the company's Family Day event held in the parking lot on a Saturday. Families of all employees were invited. Executives brought their wives in expensive cars. Middle management arrived with their children, and support staff came with their families on public transport. Emeka had brought his 13-year-old nephew, David, whom he had been raising since his sister died. David was brilliant, already excelling in mathematics and science, dreaming of becoming an engineer like his uncle. The boy was fascinated by the company, asking Emeka intelligent questions about the business. They were standing near the display showing Pinnacle's various products and services when Williams approached with his own family, his wife dripping in gold jewelry, his teenage son looking bored and entitled. Williams called Marcus, approaching with his own family. Let me introduce you to my daughter. She is studying business administration. As the executives talked, David whispered to Emeka in Igbo, Uncle, why do they ship the products to Port Harcourt first before bringing them back to Lagos for export? Wouldn't it be cheaper to ship directly from the factory to Lagos port? It was an innocent question from a bright child, but Williams overheard. Excuse me, Williams said, his voice dripping with condescension. Is this boy questioning our shipping strategy? Emeka stepped protectively in front of David. He is just a curious child, sir. A curious child from where exactly? Williams looked at David with disgust. Let me guess. Government school? Local primary school in the slums? Uncle attended Federal Government College, David said proudly, not understanding the social dynamics at play. Williams laughed. Of course, and I suppose he thinks he can solve problems that our MBA graduates can't handle. Marcus looked uncomfortable. Other families were starting to stare. Emeka felt the familiar burning of humiliation, but this time it was worse because David was witnessing it. The boy asked an innocent question, Emeka said quietly. An ignorant question from ignorant people, Williams replied. This is exactly the problem with giving the help too much access. They start thinking they understand things beyond their station. Emeka took David's hand and began to walk away, but Williams wasn't finished. Next time, Janitor, remember that this is a family event for employees and their families, not for every street child you pick up. The words hit like physical blows. David looked up at Emeka with confusion and awe. Uncle, what did he mean? Nothing, Nwa, Emeka said softly. Some people's hearts are smaller than their positions. But the damage was done. That night, David asked why people treated his uncle so badly when he was so smart and kind. Emeka didn't have a good answer. The third incident was the breaking point. It happened during the quarterly performance review. All employees were required to meet with their supervisors to discuss their work and receive feedback. Emeka's supervisor was Mrs. Aduni, the head of facilities management. She was a kind woman who had always treated him with respect. They met in a small office to review his performance. Emeka, your work is exemplary as always, she said, checking boxes on her evaluation form. The executives frequently comment on how clean and organized their offices are. You are punctual, reliable, and respectful. Thank you, ma, Emeka replied. However, she continued, her voice becoming cautious. There have been some complaints. Emeka's heart sank. Complaints, ma. Mr. Williams has reported that you've been overstepping boundaries. He says you've been trying to involve yourself in business matters beyond your scope. Emeka sat quietly, knowing that defending himself would only make things worse. Now, I don't know the full story, Mrs. Aduni continued, but I have to advise you to be careful. Mr. Williams has significant influence, and with the company's current financial situation, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Emeka understood perfectly. Keep quiet, stay invisible, or lose the job that kept him alive. I understand, ma, he said simply. Good, because honestly, Emeka, in these times, we can't afford to lose good workers, but we also can't afford to keep troublemakers. That evening, as Emeka walked through the nearly empty office building, doing his final cleaning rounds, he passed the conference room where the executives were having another emergency meeting. Through the glass walls, he could see their frustrated faces, their desperate gestures. He knew he could help them. He had a solution to their shipping problems written out in detail in his notebook at home. But who would listen to a janitor who had already been warned to stay in his lane? As he emptied the wastebaskets in the conference room, he overheard Williams telling the group, we need to face reality. If we can't solve this logistics crisis, we'll have to start laying off non essential personnel, beginning with the maintenance staff, the other cleaners, the security guards, the drivers, people with families, children, dreams, all of them expendable in Williams's eyes. That night, Emeka made a decision. He would document everything he had observed about the company's logistics problem. He would prepare a detailed proposal with his solutions. And if the moment ever came when someone might listen, really listen, he would be ready. He had no idea that moment was only weeks away and it would come in the most dramatic circumstances possible. The crisis that would change everything began on a Monday morning in December. Emeka arrived at work to find the building buzzing with unusual activity. Executives were arriving earlier than normal, their faces grim, their conversations hushed and urgent. By noon, the rumors were everywhere. Pinnacle Industries' biggest clients, a multinational company that accounted for 40% of their revenue, had terminated their contracts. The reason was simple. Pinnacle shipping costs had made them uncompetitive. Their rivals were delivering the same product at 30% lower cost. Emeka was cleaning the executive floor when he overheard Marcus on a desperate call in his office. Please, Mr. Johnson, Marcus was saying, his voice barely controlled. Give us 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks to show you that we can match their pricing. There was a long pause as Marcus listened to the response. I understand your position, but we've been partners for 15 years. Surely that counts for something. Another pause, longer this time. I see. Yes, I understand business is business. Thank you for the opportunity we've had. Marcus hung up the phone and sat in silence. Through the slightly open door, Emeka could see the man's shoulders shaking. This wasn't just a business setback, it was the death of a dream. Later that afternoon, Williams called an emergency meeting with all department heads. The support staff weren't invited, but Emeka was cleaning the conference room next door and could hear everything through the thin walls. Gentlemen, Williams' voice carried clearly. We are in full crisis mode. We have 48 hours to present a viable cost reduction plan to the board, or they will authorize bankruptcy proceedings. Someone asked about layoffs. Layoffs are inevitable, Williams replied. We'll start with non-essential personnel, all maintenance staff, half the security team, most of the drivers. That should save us about 2 million naira annually. Will that be enough? Someone asked. Not even close, Williams admitted, but it's a start. The real problem is our shipping costs. Until we solve that, we are just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. As Emeka listened, his heart broke for his colleagues. Men like Ibrahim, the security guard who had 4 children in school. Women like Auntie Kemi from housekeeping, who was the sole breadwinner for our extended family. They would all be sacrificed while the real solution sat in Emeka's notebook at home. That evening, after the executives had gone home to their comfortable houses to strategize over expensive wine, Emeka sat alone in the empty building. He had keys to everywhere. Janitors need access to clean, and he found himself in the main conference room, staring at the whiteboard covered with shipping cost calculations. The numbers told a story of waste and inefficiency, but they also told a story of simple solutions ignored because they came from the wrong source. Emeka took out his cleaning cloth and began to wipe the whiteboard clean. As he did, he whispered a prayer his wife used to say, God, if you want to use me, use me. If you want to move through me, move through me. I am just a vessel. The next morning brought news that shattered any remaining hope. Marcus called an all-staff meeting in the main auditorium. Everyone was there, from the highest executives to the newest janitor. The atmosphere was funeral quiet. My friends, Marcus began, his voice heavy with emotion. I've spent 30 years building this company. It has been my life, my passion, my legacy. But today, I have to tell you that if we cannot find a solution to our logistics crisis within the next 24 hours, the board will vote to liquidate Pinnacle Industries. A collective gasp went through the auditorium. Some people began to cry. Others sat in stunned silence. Marcus continued. We will make every effort to secure jobs for as many of you as possible with other companies. But I won't lie to you, many positions will be lost. In the back of the auditorium, Emeka watched the faces of his colleagues. Ibrahim looked like he had been punched in the stomach. Auntie Kemi was quietly weeping. Sarah, the receptionist, stared straight ahead in shock. After the meeting, as people filed out in stunned silence, Williams made one final cruel comment that would prove to be his undoing. Standing near the executive elevator, Williams said loudly to his deputy, "Honestly, this might be a blessing in disguise. We can rebuild with a linear operation without all the dead weight we've been carrying." He gestured toward the support staff walking past. "Half these people are redundant anyway. When we reopen, we'll hire younger, more efficient workers." Emeka stopped working. For 8 years, he had endured insults, dismissals, and humiliation. He had stayed quiet, stayed invisible, stayed in his lane, but watching Williams casually discuss destroying dozens of families while having no solution to offer was too much. For the first time in his life, Emeka felt something more powerful than patience: righteous anger. That night, he went home and pulled out every document he had collected, every calculation he had made, every solution he had crafted. He worked until 3 a.m., preparing a presentation that could save the company. He had no idea if anyone would listen, but he couldn't watch good people suffer while sitting on the solution. Tomorrow, whether they wanted to hear from a janitor or not, Emeka would speak. The final day arrived grey and overcast, as if even the weather understood the gravity of the situation. Emeka arrived at work carrying something he had never brought before: a manila folder containing his detailed analysis and recommendations. His hands trembled slightly as he barged into the building, knowing that in a few hours everything would change. Either the company would be saved or it would be gone forever. The executive floor was in chaos. Secretaries rushed between offices carrying urgent documents. Phones rang constantly. The smell of coffee and stress permeated the air as the leadership team made their last desperate attempts to find a solution. Emeka began his cleaning routine, but his mind was focused on the emergency board meeting scheduled for 2 p.m. He had learned from eavesdropping that this would be the final meeting. Either they would present a viable cost reduction plan or the board would vote to liquidate. At 11 a.m., Marcus called yet another strategy meeting with his senior team. They gathered in the main conference room, and Emeka positioned himself nearby, cleaning offices that didn't need cleaning just to hear their discussions. "Gentlemen," Marcus said, his voice hoarse from stress and sleepless nights, "in 3 hours, we present to the board. What do we have?" Williams cleared his throat. "We've identified 4.2 million naira in potential savings through staff reductions. If we eliminate the entire maintenance department, half of security, and restructure middle management." "That is not enough," interrupted the CFO. "We need to cut shipping costs by at least 60% to be competitive. Personnel savings won't achieve that." "What about renegotiating with our logistics provider?" asked someone. "Tried it," Williams replied. "They are already giving us their best rates. The problem isn't their pricing, it is the routes themselves. But we've been using these shipping lanes for 20 years. They are established, reliable, and expensive," Marcus said bitterly. "So expensive, they are killing us." Through the glass walls, Emeka could see the frustration and desperation on their faces. These were intelligent, educated men with decades of business experience, and they were stumped by a problem that seemed to have no solution. Except it did have a solution, and it was sitting in Emeka's folder. At 12:30 p.m., the executives broke for lunch before the crucial board meeting. But Marcus didn't leave. He sat alone in the conference room, staring at shipping charts and cost analysis spread across the table. His lunch sat untouched as he tried to find an answer that had eluded him for months. Emeka was cleaning the adjoining office when he heard Marcus talking to himself, or perhaps praying, God, I've tried everything. I've exhausted every option. If there is an answer I am not saying, please help me find it. Too many good people are depending on me. That was the moment Emeka knew he had to act, not for himself, not for his pride, but for all the good people who would suffer if he stayed silent. He walked to the conference room door and knocked gently. Mr. Marcus, sir. Marcus looked up, surprised. Emeka, what is it? Sir, I know this might sound strange, but I think I might have something that could help. Marcus rubbed his temples. Emeka, I appreciate your concern, but please, sir. Emeka interrupted quietly. Just 5 minutes. If what I show you doesn't make sense, I will leave and never mention it again. Something in Emeka's tone, perhaps the quiet desperation, perhaps the complete absence of his usual deference, made Marcus pause. 5 minutes, he said. Emeka entered the conference room and carefully placed his folder on the table. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. Sir, I studied industrial engineering at University of Lagos. I've been observing the company's operations for 8 years, and I believe the shipping problem has a simple solution. Marcus looked skeptical but gestured for him to continue. Emeka opened his folder and spread out hand-drawn maps, cost calculations, and route analysis. Sir, look at your current shipping route. He traced the path on the map with his finger. Your products go from the factory in Ikeja to Port Harcourt by truck, then from Port Harcourt back to Lagos by ship for export. You're essentially shipping in a triangle when you could ship in a straight line. Marcus leaned forward, his attention now fully engaged. If you ship directly from Ikeja to Lagos port, you eliminate the Port Harcourt leg entirely. That is a 63% cost reduction in transportation. But why would our logistics company route it that way? Marcus asked. Because they make more money on longer routes, Emeka explained. They charge by distance and handling fees. The current route maximizes their profit while minimizing your competitiveness. Marcus stared at the maps and calculations. Everything was meticulously documented, clearly explained, and backed by solid engineering principles. How long have you known about this? Marcus asked quietly. Several months, sir. I tried to mention it before, but we didn't listen. Marcus finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. Because you are the janitor. At that moment, Williams walked back into the conference room, returning from lunch early. He stopped dead when he saw Emeka with documents spread across the table. What is this? Williams demanded. Marcus, what is he doing here? Marcus held up a hand. Chibuike, look at this analysis. Analysis from the janitor. Williams laughed harshly. Marcus, we have 1 hour before the most important meeting in this company's history, and you are playing games with the help? I am not playing games, Marcus said, his voice gaining strength. This man has identified the exact solution to our shipping crisis. William snatched the papers from the table. This is ridiculous. Hand-drawn maps, amateur calculations. We need professional solutions, not fairy tales from what? Marcus interrupted, standing up. From someone who actually understands the problem, the tension in the room was explosive. Emeka stood quietly, watching two powerful men argue over his work while his own future and that of his colleagues hung in the balance. Marcus, Williams said, his voice dangerously low, if you present this nonsense to the board, you will be laughed out of the room. Our credibility is already hanging by a thread. And if I don't present it, we are bankrupt by tonight, Marcus replied. What exactly do we have to lose? Williams looked at the maps again, his face twisting with disgust. Our dignity, our professional reputation, the last shreds of respect from our investors. But Marcus was studying the calculations more carefully. His business mind was engaging with the engineering logic, and he could see that it made perfect sense. Emeka, Marcus said suddenly, can you present this to the board? The question hung in the air like a bomb. Williams's face went pale with shock. Emeka felt the world tilt on his axis. Sir, Emeka whispered, can you explain this analysis to our board of directors? Can you walk them through your solution? Before Emeka could answer, Williams exploded. Absolutely not. I will not stand by and watch this company's reputation be destroyed by letting a janitor address our board of directors. It is insane. Marcus looked at Williams with an expression that was both sad and disappointed. Chibuike, what is insane is that we've been ignoring the solution to our problems because of our own prejudices. This isn't about prejudice, Williams shouted. This is about professionalism, about maintaining standards, about saving the company. Marcus interrupted. Which is more important than your pride? The room fell silent. Through the glass walls, other employees had begun to gather, sensing that something significant was happening. Sarah, the receptionist, stood outside, watching with wide eyes. Ibrahim, the security guard, had found an excuse to be nearby. Word was spreading that something unprecedented was unfolding in the conference room. Williams made one last desperate attempt to maintain control. Marcus, I am begging you, don't do this. Don't humiliate us both by parading the janitor in front of our investors. If his ideas have merits, and I am not saying they do, let me present them. Let someone with actual credentials explain the concept. Emeka looked at Williams, then at Marcus. For 8 years, he had watched Williams take credit for other people's work, had seen him dismiss good ideas if they didn't come from the right source. This was his pattern. Appropriate what was useful, destroy what threatened his position. Sir, Emeka said quietly to Marcus, if Mr. Williams presents my work, how will you know if he understands it well enough to answer the boss questions? It was a simple, devastating question. Williams's face flushed red because he couldn't answer it. He had glanced at the calculations for 30 seconds and dismissed them. He had no idea how Emeka had reached his conclusions or what assumptions underlined the analysis. Marcus looked from Emeka to Williams and back again. In that moment, he made the decision that would change everything. Emeka, you have 45 minutes to prepare. You are presenting to the board. Williams's face went white with rage. If you do this, Marcus, I will resign. I won't be part of this circus. Marcus met his eyes steadily. Williams, Chibuike, your resignation will be accepted immediately. The words echoed through the conference room like thunder. William stood frozen, apparently unable to believe that his bluff had been called. You are firing me for him? Williams pointed at Emeka with shaking fingers. I am accepting your resignation, Marcus corrected. And yes, I am trusting him because in the last 15 minutes, he has shown me more practical wisdom than we have demonstrated in the last 15 months. William stormed out of the room, but not before turning back for one final threat. When this blows up in your face, Marcus, remember that I tried to save you from your own stupidity. The door slammed behind him, leaving Marcus and Emeka alone with the weight of what was about to happen. Sir, Emeka said quietly, are you sure about this? Marcus looked at the maps and calculations spread across the table. Then, at the man who had created them while working as a janitor for 8 years. Emeka, 30 years ago, I started this company with nothing but an idea and determination. I have forgotten what it feels like to make decisions based on merit rather than politics. He paused, then smiled for the first time in weeks. I am not sure about much these days, but I am sure about this. You are going to save us all. Outside the conference room, word was spreading through the building like wildfire. The janitor was going to address the board of directors. It was unprecedented, unthinkable, and absolutely fascinating. In 45 minutes, Emeka would either become the hero who saved Pinnacle Industries or the scapegoat who presided over its final humiliation. But as he gathered his papers and prepared for the most important presentation of his life, Emeka felt a strange calm descend over him. This was no longer about proving himself or gaining recognition. It was about saving the livelihoods of dozens of people who deserved better than to be casualties of corporate blindness. At exactly 2 p.m., the boardroom filled with Pinnacle Industries' most powerful stakeholders. 12 board members took their seats around the mahogany table. Successful businessmen and women who controlled millions of naira in investments. At the head of the table sat Chief Adebayo, the board chairman, a stern man in his 70s who had built his fortune in real estate and had little patience for excuses. Marcus stood at the front of the room, his usual confidence replaced by desperate hope. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for gathering on such short notice. As you know, we face an existential crisis. Our shipping costs have made us uncompetitive and we are hemorrhaging money at an unsustainable rate. The board members nodded grimly. They had seen the quarterly reports. However, Marcus continued, his voice gaining strength. I believe we have identified a solution and I want to present it to you through someone who understands our logistics challenges better than anyone else in this company. He paused, knowing that his next words would either save his company or destroy its credibility forever. I'd like you to meet Emeka Okafor, who will explain how we can cut our shipping costs by 63%. The boardroom door opened and Emeka walked in wearing his cleanest uniform, carrying his manila folder with the confidence of a man who had nothing left to lose. The board members looked confused, glancing at each other with raised eyebrows. Excuse me, said Mrs. Okonkwo, one of the board members, but isn't this our head janitor? Yes, Marcus confirmed, who also happens to hold a first-class degree in industrial engineering from the University of Lagos. The room erupted in murmurs. Chief Adebayo raised his hand for silence. Mr. Adeleke, I hope you understand the gravity of this situation. We are here to discuss saving this company, not to participate in some social experiments. With respect, sir, Marcus replied, what I am about to show you is pure business. The source shouldn't matter if the solution works. Emeka stepped forward, his heart hammering but his voice steady. Good afternoon, distinguished board members. For 8 years, I've had the privilege of working in this building, observing every aspect of our operations. What I am about to present is an engineering analysis of our logistics inefficiencies and a practical solution to resolve them. He moved to the whiteboard and began drawing a map of Nigeria, marking key locations with confident strokes. Currently, our products follow these routes, he said, tracing the path with his finger. Factory in Ikeja to Port Harcourt by truck, 742 kilometers. Port Harcourt to Lagos Port by ship, another 463 kilometers. Total distance, 1,205 kilometers. The board members leaned forward, their business instincts engaging despite their surprise at the presenter. The direct route, Emeka continued, drawing a straight line, is Ikeja to Lagos Port, 27 kilometers. We are currently shipping our products 45 times further than necessary. Chief Adebayo's eyes widened. What is the cost difference? Emeka had prepared for this question. Current cost per container, 185,000 naira. Direct route cost, 68,000 naira. Per container savings, 117,000 naira. With our average monthly revenue of 340 containers, we save 39.78 million per month. The room fell dead silent as the board members absorbed the numbers. That is nearly 480 million naira annually, whispered the CFO board member, Mrs. Bankole. But why has our logistics company been using the longer routes? Asked Chief Adebayo. Because they profit from distance and handling fees, Emeka explained. The current route generates 62.9 million naira annually for them. The direct route would generate 23.4 million. They have no incentive to suggest the more efficient option. Board member Mr. Okoro leaned forward. And you have verified these calculations? Yes. I have also researched alternative logistics providers who specialize in direct port delivery. I have 3 companies that can handle our volume at the reduced cost. Emeka opened his folder and distributed detailed cost comparisons, route analysis, and contact information for the alternative providers. The board members studied the documents with growing amazement. This is comprehensive, Chief Adebayo admitted, his stern expression softening to one of professional respect. How long did this analysis take you? 6 months of observation and documentation, sir, plus 2 weeks of detailed calculations and research. Mrs. Okonkwo looked up from the papers. Why didn't you present this earlier? The question hung in the air. Emeka glanced at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. Ma, I tried to raise the issue several times, but as a janitor, my input wasn't considered relevant to business operations. Who specifically dismissed your concerns? Chief Adebayo asked, his voice taking on a dangerous edge. Sir, I'd prefer not to. Mr. Okafor, the chairman interrupted. This company is on the verge of bankruptcy. If someone prevented potentially life-saving information from reaching decision makers, the board needs to know. Emeka took a deep breath. Mr. Williams, The head of operations felt that logistic discussions were beyond my qualifications. The board members exchanged glances. Mr. Williams was well known to them. His reports, his presentations, his confident assertions about the company's operational efficiency. And where is Mr. Williams now? Asked Mrs. Bankole. Marcus cleared his throat. He resigned this afternoon when I decided to have Mr. Okafor present to you directly. Chief Adebayo leaned back in his chair, processing everything. Let me understand this correctly. Our head of operations, who was paid 8.4 million naira annually to optimize our logistics, missed a solution that could save us 480 million naira per year. Meanwhile, our janitor, who earns 540,000 naira annually, identified and documented the exact solution we needed. That's correct, sir, Marcus confirmed. The chairman looked directly at Emeka. Mr. Okafor, how quickly can we implement this new shipping strategy? 2 weeks, sir. I've already spoken with the alternative logistics providers. They can begin handling our shipments immediately once contracts are signed. And you are confident in these projections? Yes, sir. Conservative estimates show 420 million naira in annual savings. Optimistic projections suggest we could save up to 540 million naira by optimizing container loading and scheduling. Chief Adebayo stood up and the entire room fell silent. That was the moment of decision. Ladies and gentlemen, I call for an immediate vote. All in favor of implementing Mr. Okafor's logistic optimization plan? 12 hands rose without hesitation. Opposed? Silence. Motion carried unanimously. Chief Adebayo turned to Marcus. Mr. Adeleke, implement this plan immediately. Mr. Okafor, congratulations. You have just saved this company. But Emeka wasn't finished. Sir, if I may suggest one additional change. The board members looked at him expectantly. The company should establish a formal process for employee suggestions, regardless of their position. Some of our security guards and drivers have valuable insight about operational inefficiencies. Our receptionist has ideas about customer service improvements. Good ideas can come from anywhere. Chief Adebayo smiled, the first genuine smile anyone had seen from him in months. Mr. Okafor, consider it done. In fact, I would like you to head that initiative. Congratulations on your promotion to Director of Operational Efficiency. The room erupted in applause. Marcus beamed with pride and relief, but the biggest transformation was yet to come. 3 months later, Pinnacle Industries looked like a completely different company. The shipping cost savings had not only prevented bankruptcy, but had made the company more profitable than it had been in 5 years. The stock price had recovered, employees had received bonuses, and new contracts were pouring in from clients impressed by their competitive pricing. Emeka now works in a corner office on the 38th floor, but he hadn't forgotten his roots. Every morning at 7 a.m., he still walks through the building, greeting the security guards, chatting with the cleaning staff, and listening to ideas from employees at every level. The Pinnacle Innovation Initiative had become the company's most successful program. In just 3 months, employee suggestions had generated additional savings of 127 million naira. Ibrahim, the security guard, had identified a scheduling inefficiency that reduced overtime costs. Auntie Kemi from housekeeping had suggested a supplier change that cuts cleaning supply costs by 30%. Sarah, the receptionist, had recommended a customer communication system that improved clients' satisfaction scores by 40%. But the most satisfying transformation was in the company culture itself. On a sunny Thursday morning, Emeka was reviewing the latest operational reports when his secretary knocked on his door. Sir, there is someone here to see you. He says it's personal. Send him in. The door opened and Chibuike Williams walked in, looking nothing like the arrogant executive who had resigned 3 months earlier. His expensive suit was gone, replaced by a simple shirt and trousers. His confident swagger had been replaced by humble uncertainty. Emeka, he said quietly, thank you for seeing me. Please sit down, Emeka replied, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. How are you? William sat down heavily. Honestly, I've been better. I've been looking for work for 3 months. What travels fast in corporate circles when potential employers hear that I missed a solution that could save millions while dismissing the person who found it? He trailed off. I'm sorry to hear that, Emeka said, and he meant it. Are you? Really? Williams looked up with surprise. After everything I put you through? Emeka leaned forward. Williams, I never wanted to see you fail. I just wanted to help the company succeed. Williams was quiet for a long moment. I came here to apologize and to ask, is there any chance? Could you put in a word for me? Maybe there is a position here where I could start over. It was a stunning reversal. The man who had once called Emeka deadweight was now asking for his help. What kind of position are you looking for? Emeka asked. Anything, Williams replied without hesitation. I will take anything. I need to work, and more than that, I need to learn. I realize I've been making the same mistakes for years, dismissing people, ignoring good ideas, focusing on politics instead of results. Emeka studied the man across from him. 3 months of unemployment and reflection had clearly changed him. There is an opening in our logistics coordination department, Emeka said finally. It is not a management position. You will be working directly with shipping schedules, tracking deliveries, coordinating with our new routing partners. The salary is 2.1 million naira annually. It was less than a quarter of what Williams had earned as head of operations, but his face lit up with relief. I'll take it, he said immediately. When can I start? Monday. But Williams, I need you to understand something. This isn't charity. I am giving you this opportunity because I believe people can change and because the company benefits when we utilize everyone's potential. But you'll be held to the same standards as every other employee. Williams nodded vigorously. I understand. And Emeka, thank you. I know I don't deserve this. We all deserve second chances, Emeka replied. The question is what we do with them. After Williams left, Emeka sat in his office reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. His phone burst with a text message from his nephew, David, now in his final year of secondary school and preparing for university entrance exams. Uncle, my mathematics teacher said to tell you that your story inspired her to listen more carefully to our students' ideas. She says sometimes the best insights come from unexpected places. Can't wait to study engineering like you. Emeka smiled, remembering the scared 13-year-old boy who had been humiliated at the company family day. David was now confident, ambitious, and proud of his uncle's journey from janitor to director. But the real measure of Emeka's success wasn't in his new title or salary. It was in the transformation of Pinnacle Industries culture. The company had learned to listen. Ideas were evaluated on their merits, not their source. Respect was shown to every employee, regardless of their position. That evening, as Emeka prepared to leave the office, he took one last walk through the building. In the lobby, he stopped to chat with the new night security guard, a young man fresh from university who was working to save money for graduate school. Any observations about our operations? Emeka asked, as he did with all new employees. The young man's eyes lit up. Actually, sir, I've noticed something about the visitor parking system that might save time and improve security. As Emeka listened to another potentially valuable insight from an unlikely source, he thought about the lesson that had changed everything. Genius isn't determined by job titles. Wisdom isn't limited by uniforms, and the best solutions often come from the people closest to the problems. 6 months later, Pinnacle Industries would be named Company of the Year by the Lagos Business Journal, praised for its innovative culture and operational excellence. The article would mention the remarkable story of how a janitor's insights had saved the company from bankruptcy. But for Emeka, the real victory wasn't in the recognition or the accolades. It was in the knowledge that good ideas would never again be dismissed simply because they come from the wrong person. And in a corner office on the 38th floor, a former janitor continued to prove that respect, humility, and genuine care for others' well being were the most powerful tools for transforming any organization and any life. And that, my friend, is why you should never judge people by their positions or dismiss their ideas because of their status. Emeka's story reminds us that wisdom can come from anywhere. Solutions can be found in the most unexpected places, and treating people with respect isn't just morally right, it is good business. The next time you encounter someone in a service role, remember that you might be talking to the person who has the answer you've been searching for. Listen with respect, engage with humility, and recognize that every person has value beyond what their job title suggests. What did you think of Emeka's incredible journey? Have you ever encountered a situation where valuable insights came from an unexpected source? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story inspired you, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to Raw Tales Africa for more amazing African tales and ring that notification bell so you never miss out latest uploads. Until next time, remember, respect costs nothing, but its value is immeasurable. Thank you for watching and see you in the next story.